good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Renegade Roundtable podcast here on Revolution Radio. I am Jeffrey Kirby. We are on episode number 33 already. It's actually pretty crazy to think about. We're already on 33. Damn. Time does go by quick when you're having fun. But how are you guys doing tonight? Again, welcome back to another episode here on the channel. I am Jeffrey Kirby. We got some stuff we got to get into tonight. Obviously, by the title of this video, MLB could possibly, there are definitely, most likely going to be games that are going to be lost. We're going to discuss that. The Steelers made a very interesting hire over the weekend that we are going to discuss. And the media is back at it again with a certain individual that plays for the Steelers. And also, we're going to do QB talk today. It's exactly what we're doing. But before we get started real quick, all I want to say is just be positive and through all the stuff that's going on right now in the world, and because I don't really want to get all into it too much. That if you want to hear more about me and getting more into stuff about what's going on in the world, make sure to go and check out the Hotspot podcast. Everything I will make sure at the end of this to put everything down in the description. Make sure to go and like Revolution Radio Live on Facebook. If you don't have Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and also go and follow us on Twitter as well, the Hotspot_pod. Now let's go ahead and let's get started here. Because we got a little bit that we need to discuss when it comes to Major League Baseball. So the owners are now claiming that if a deal is not done by this Monday, we are going to be missing games. The players will not be getting paid for those games, and the season is going to be shortened. Now, obviously, we had a feeling that this was coming. We are on day 84 of the lockout. We knew for a fact that this was most likely going to happen. We all thought and believed that, hey, they'll find a way to get this done beforehand. I highly doubt that's going to be the case. I highly doubt that a deal is going to be done beforehand, unless the players are going to cave into the owners' proposals and just to make sure that they could get into a season this year on time. Because obviously, spring training is already being delayed. Now, here's something that I had this thought over the course of the week about baseball. And it's something that kind of irritates me, and it goes to the purist of baseball. And Caleb, I know he's not here with me today, as you can tell. I know this would be an interest, and I know he has stuff going on. But this goes kind of to a similar conversation that me and him had a couple weeks ago, just about baseball, the integrity of baseball, and just keeping baseball what we all know and love. Part of the issue with baseball, and this is something that we always saw when it came to players, especially nowadays. When it came to players, say for an example, I'm just going to throw a name out there. Ronald Acuna. He hits a big time home run. Does the bat flip. He does a bat flip. Jose Bautista. We all know the infamous bat flip that he had against I forget who it was against, but he had the infamous bat flip in the playoffs in 2015, and it's great. I love it. I know there's a lot of people that love it because it shows the emotion of the game, and we love to see that, especially when stakes are at its highest, when you do something, when you hit an accomplishment such as hitting a home run or anything like that, you should be able to do a little, have some celebration. And this goes into the NFL with the whole no fun league and blah, 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 but we're talking about baseball here. We'll get into the NFL in a little bit. If anyone, when the season does start, And they tried to claim that staring at pitchers, or again doing bat flips, or any of the hoorah, are trying to say that they are ruining the integrity of the game. I want you to go back to this moment right now. I want you to go back to the beginning of December when the lockout began. This moment, Monday, if or most likely not when a deal is not done and we are officially in shortened season mode, this is what I want you to talk about. Because, again, and this is something that I have talked about over the course of a few years on different different big time shows I've called in on, and they all love this take where I say the average fan of Major League Baseball is actually pretty old. It's like in the 50s on average. So what do they believe in? I don't necessarily think it's not necessarily. They don't like the bat flips. They don't like all the hoorah. It's baseball is baseball. You go out there and you play it and blah, blah, blah. They don't like it when guys like Juan Soto or guys, again, like Ronald Acuna, they go out there and they do these little bat flips. No, they don't like that, and I don't get why. When they stare at pitchers, and why? Stuff like that is what makes baseball fun. They're not being disrespectful. Some pitchers might be offended by it because of the fact that they're getting embarrassed because they just gave up a home run in a big time game. But then there's a lot of pitchers where it's like, I like it. I probably deserved it. I shouldn't have thrown that pitch. I should have executed that pitch better. I should have made a better play. I did it. He goes and celebrates. That's like, obviously, when a wide receiver in the NFL makes a big-time play, scores a touchdown, they celebrate, and you're getting offended by it. Do me a favor, then. Do something about it. Do something about it. Play better defense. Execute better. It's stuff like this that honestly really irritates me when it comes to baseball fans. Baseball fans are... yes, I don't get me wrong. I love going to baseball games. I love, I've been to numerous of Guardians games. I've gotten to go to Pittsburgh last year. I've been to Detroit. I've been to Cincinnati. It's great. I love watching the game of baseball. But I feel like, and yes, sometimes there are changes that need to be made in certain aspects. But it goes back to just some of the old purist fans that they always want things to be how they had it when they grew up. And yes, we're all like that to certain aspects. But in certain times, you also have to adapt to change in the time of era that we are in. And it's just something that it's kind of annoying. When it comes just fans, and obviously we want baseball. We're all begging for a deal to be done so we can watch our favorite teams compete and play baseball 162 days out of the year. And obviously for some teams even more, trying to make a push for a World Series to go and win a piece of metal, as what our clown Robert Manfred, commissioner, said. For me, I want a deal to be done, yes. But at the same time, I do not want to see the same thing happen to the last two negotiations that have happened, where the players have gotten absolutely screwed out to no end. And this is the thing. And again, you ask people, and I'm not saying that the players in this negotiation are complete victims. No. You have to put some of this on them as well, because they are the ones that are coming back and saying no to certain deals and trying to make it's a part of the negotiation process. It's like trying to negotiate anything. if something a deal doesn't go down, you can't just blame everything on the other person to make you look better. No, you probably have a little bit of blame to put on yourself. And this is the thing with baseball. Again, we all want it to happen, yes, but I don't want it to I don't want players to be completely screwed out because billionaires in complete greed. Because that is something that we're seeing just all across America when it comes to billionaires, the top 1%ers. And this is actually real quick. I'm going to get off topic for a second because this was a topic that I heard earlier this week. I was actually listening to a Cleveland radio show, and this became an interesting topic. And it came to season ticket holders. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. The greed of everything going, the price of season tickets going up. Now, I talked to someone that I know that is a Steeler fan who has season ticket holders. We've actually had him on the show before, Zachary Smitty from Around the 412. I talked to him about this, and I was like, in the time that you've had season tickets, how many times have they increased your price? And he said he's had them for 3 years, and pretty much one of them was lost because of COVID, and so in reality, it's been one. I know a bunch of people who are Browns fans who have season tickets, and they just continuously have gone up. I think what they said was for the last 5 years, they have increased more and more. And my issue is, they're doing it to every single fan, and it's like small increments. Now, yes, I don't know exactly how much of an increase these season tickets are going up by, because to be honest, I don't have season tickets. Will I ever get them? I don't know. I mean, right now, like I said, I live in west of Cleveland, so it's a 2-hour drive from where I'm at to Pittsburgh. It's not all that far, but sometimes that would be a little bit tedious. That would be something I would do maybe if I end up living closer to Pittsburgh at some point. We'll see. But it's just, and this goes back to just the overall greed of just billionaires and the top 1%ers. And again, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about with Major League Baseball in the negotiation process. Is the fact that and I get, they're businessmen, it's what they do. There's a reason why they're a top 1%er. There's a reason why they have more money than you can ever imagine having. But it's just the fact that you literally are squeezing out the people who are buying these tickets, who are most likely living paycheck to paycheck, but they support your team, that they're doing whatever it can to buy the season ticket because football is what their life is. That is what their entertainment is. That is what their enjoyment is from about, let's say, August till January. For the most fans, August to January. This is their time of pure enjoyment. But it's the fact that the continuing of the greed of owners just continuously price gouging pretty much. And the reason being is, at the end of the day, they can do it because at the end of the day, us as fans are still going to pay for it because it's just something that we feel like we can't live without. Again, do I blame the owners? Absolutely not. But it's just annoying again from this side of the spectrum. And again, this goes back to the negotiation process. With all this, the owners are trying to squeeze out every last dollar they can to try and, again, completely dominate the negotiations, completely dominate everything that it becomes. So they are in 1,000,000% control of absolutely everything, and the players are just the players. Even though, again, this goes back to a quote that was said in the Last Dance documentary right at the beginning of COVID. The players are the reason why we are the entertainment, not the front office. So I guess, one hand does wash the other. Now, we're going to get into the football now, because one thing that did happen over the weekend, I believe it was on Saturday, the Pittsburgh Steelers making a new coaching hire, that seemed to be almost unanimously, I can't speak, beloved. Hunter says, I could run an MLB franchise easy. All right, Hunter, give it to me. How can you? And also, real quick, as Hunter, you're a big baseball fan. You understand baseball 10 times more than I do. I'll be real. What is your opinion on the baseball stuff? I'll hold off on the football stuff for a second, because I'm interested to see what you would have to say about how you would run a baseball franchise. And I do think it's easier said than done. I do think there is a lot. Obviously, we all know there's a lot that goes into it, and a lot of people that are involved in this. I'd simply. Okay, we're not talking about MLB The Show here, sir. We're talking about an actual franchise. Because if we're talking at that point, I can easily run an NFL franchise, no problem. Okay, you said give me a second. I'm going to be typing kind of long. All right, cool. While you're at it, I'm going to talk about this Brian Flores hire real quick. So Brian Flores is hired by the Pittsburgh Steelers as a linebackers coach. And obviously, I was very, very excited about this hire. Because of the fact that, it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me. It probably doesn't surprise a lot of people, whether you're a Steeler fan or whether you're not a Steeler fan, that Brian Flores ended up being hired by the Steelers, just based on the fact of the history of the Steelers, and the fact that, again, we're all talking about the race stuff and the minorities in terms of hiring coaches. Well, I wonder what family the Rooney Rule is from. Obviously, Pittsburgh. Again, I saw outside of racist people, because, oh boy, here's something funny for you. So I posted in a bunch of AFC North fan pages. And it was a joke, in a way, but it was also kind of a bait thing, because I knew this would bring out some of the racist people here. And it was the infamous picture of the picture that you typically see that would be like typical Trump supporters or something, and I quoted and said, I'm never watching the Pittsburgh Steelers play football again, or something. Obviously, a lot of people thought it was funny and it was hilarious and that it was kind of true, but then you saw the people that were getting real offended by it. And it was funny because, again, those were the kind of people that were making this into an issue. But if you're looking at this from a football aspect, obviously, Brian Flores is way overqualified to be at the position that he was hired in. And the fact that you're adding this kind of caliber of coach to your coaching staff is tremendous. I love it because of the fact that last year, obviously, we know Devin Bush. He did not play well last year. I'm not going to give him a full pass because, yes, you have to put some of the blame on him. But then at the end of the day, too, you got to remember, his knee and his whole body just may not have been there. And I've always been in the person to believe that it's going to take, if you tear an ACL, maybe that following year isn't necessarily the full year that you want to judge. It would be the following year after that. All right, we'll pause on this discussion for a second. Hunter says, so pretty much the players want free agency to be available to anyone who has reached 29 and a half years old if they've acquired 5 years of service time, or players who have acquired 6 years of want free agency. Okay. So, and that was one thing that I did understand was the players, the Major League Baseball players, they want free agency to come a little bit earlier because we all know how this goes. The moment you hit 30 years old, you're not getting that big time contract. And that's how these owners and these GMs will manipulate things. We saw this firsthand with the Guardians and Mike Clevenger. They were able to finesse ways with service time, and they'll do this with prospects. Once you get to a certain point in the season, that's when you'll see teams bring up prospects because now it's a way to manipulate service time so you get more, so the owners and the GMs get more time with that player without having to pay them the big contract. And then obviously whatever age you come up to the big leagues, now you're in a situation of now you may not be able to get that big time contract because you're just at that certain age. It's just what happens. Yeah, and the arbitration thing too, that's also interesting as well. Arbitration's very confusing. I even admit sometimes the arbitration will get me a little bit confused. The union also wants to see tanking addressed. The Orioles have been a prime example of tanking in recent years, benefiting from landing top picks and benefiting from the league's revenue sharing. All this while only paying their entire roster $42 million, 100 less than 14 teams in the league. That is something that I do believe is a huge issue. But the issue is, again, one hand washes the other. We all want a salary floor. We all agree with that. We want to make it to where every franchise needs to spend, let's just throw out $100 million. You have to have a $100 million payroll minimum because and this is a way to help the tanking process because you can't just have a bunch of bums out there or a bunch of young prospect players out there who are making minimum salary. But at the same time, then there's also issues because now you're really starting to overpay players or blah blah blah. But then here's the issue. Now if you're gonna add that, now you're gonna have to add a salary cap. And I do not think the union is ever going to, they're never going to agree to that. And I don't think that because it affects the money that they could possibly be getting. And it goes back to the NFL. Outside of Patrick Mahomes, what quarterback has gotten, or what in other sport have gotten these absolutely massive contracts and money that baseball gets? Patrick Mahomes got $500 million or whatever, cool. But outside of that, no one is getting $300 million. Now, at one point in time, that may happen, but that's also because the salary cap is slowly increasing more. But of the fact, too, that, again, basketball, you don't see that. And in baseball, you're seeing guys get $400 million contracts, $500 million contract. That's something that Juan Soto could probably get when he becomes a free agent at his time. There's pros and cons to everything. And I do agree that tanking does need to be addressed because it's just bad for the game of baseball, but it's also bad just for the overall fan. Because at the end of the day, if you know that your team is tanking, and tanking in baseball is a whole lot different than tanking in basketball or football. Because the guys that you are drafting will help your team out immediately. Baseball, that is not the case. I just got a thing from ESPN here. MLB labor talks to extend to Friday as Monday deadline to cancel regular season games loom. So we're finally at the point now where it seems like they're going every day and they're meeting every day to figure this out. But yeah, just baseball, and it takes time because now you have to go through all these levels of minor league, and it takes a few years for those players that you were tanking for to get to that level, to get to the major league level. It's annoying, again, especially for the fans like Baltimore, for the fans of Pittsburgh, for the fans of, name any franchise that have been absolutely piss poor. Finally, on the topic of potential playoff expansion, players are concerned that expanding the field will motivate teams to spend less on players knowing they could still slide into the postseason. The benefit from TV revenue. Juan Soto just turned down a 13-year, $350 million deal because he wants $500 million. LOL. Yeah, the fact that it's just crazy to think that someone's turning down $350 million, but then there's also obviously he might just not want to be there at all. He might not want to be in DC at all. But I actually do like it's interesting with the fact of what you talk about with the playoff expansion, because with baseball, it was harder to get in with baseball. Like in basketball, over half the teams get in. And it's not cool. I don't like it when teams that are under 500 are getting in. Like in the NFL, it happens once in a very great while. Again, I never understood taking a baseball at all unless there's a prospect that's like 100%. But yeah, there you go. Exactly. I don't get the idea of tanking in baseball. Because, again, it takes so long. It takes years for that player to go, from whatever low, high A ball, whatever. Because it seems like there's 5,000 levels of minor league baseball before you get to the majors. And, again, going back to the playoff expansion, when it comes to that, playoff expansion is, you like it as a fan of the team because you have a better shot of making the postseason, but then it's kind of like it waters things down a little bit. It's not as important or as cool to make it into the playoffs. Like we just talked about with the NBA and how over half the teams get in. And then they started doing this play-in tournament, which is interesting. It's kind of fun. But then again, it's even more saturated with teams. I don't know. I kind of like only having a select few teams in the playoffs because it really shows who the best of the best is, and the teams that played the best in the regular season do get in. I do like that, although you will run into instances where the Dodgers, who won 108 games, are in the wild card because another team wins 109 games. That's just insane. And then I also think too, because like in basketball, there are technically divisions, but we don't care about divisions. It's not, the top two teams in the Central Division in the Eastern Conference gets in. No, it's not like the NFL, obviously, where all, whatever, we all know that. But it would be interesting to think about. And again, in 2020, during the COVID year, okay, fine. I get that. It's cool. Whatever. I got no problem with it. But I just don't know about the oversaturation of teams in the playoffs. But yeah, just in terms of the playoffs, or just in terms of Major League Baseball, right now things are just a hot mess. And again, baseball is slowly trying to get back up there. And again, I've talked about this on numerous occasions. I don't know if I've ever talked about this here on the show, but I'll kind of bring out some of the aspects that I believe in on things that can make baseball better. Some of the things that I think are the issues with baseball is the fact that Major League Baseball, it doesn't seem like they necessarily focus 100%, not 100%, but they don't focus enough on the younger generation. The generation that is going to continue to watch your product for years and years and years to come. But instead, you're attacking the same fan base that has already been watching you that are not going to be around as long as that younger generation. The NFL and the NBA do a phenomenal job of doing different things to grow the game from the younger generation, the generation that is going to eventually be at playing your game, playing in your league, or the fans that are going to be watching in years, and they're going to bring their kids, and then their kids are going to bring their kids. That is how you grow. Like for an example with the NFL, there's youth football stuff, there's with the NBA, there's always a bunch of, baseball or football, basketball camps, basketball leagues that are associated with the NBA, sponsorship stuff, blah, blah, blah. You don't see that with Major League Baseball. Another thing, too, again, it goes back to is marketing. The NFL and, again, the NBA do a phenomenal job of marketing their top players. Steph Curry, LeBron James, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady. Those leagues do a phenomenal job of marketing those players. The ambassadors of those leagues. I've done this test on numerous occasions. And you ask people who are not the biggest fans of sports, or may not be fans of sports to begin with. And you ask them the question of, do you know you've heard of the name Tom Brady, right? You've heard of the name Patrick Mahomes, right? You've heard of the name LeBron James, Steph Curry. You've heard of those names, correct? They'll usually say yeah. But then you ask do you know who Mike Trout is? Do you know who Shohei Ohtani is? Do you know who Ronald Acuna Jr. is? Do you know who Mookie Betts is? More likely than not, they're going to say no. And that's the issue. The fact that unless you're a fan of sports or a fan of baseball, we have no idea who the hell the top players in the league are. And I don't get that. Why not promote your top players more? Why not push them out to people who may not be sports fans yet, or again to the younger generation? Let them look at the idolization of the people or the players that they're going to be idolizing, that they want to be at one point of time in their life. Social media. Try to post more videos of stuff that they, bat flips, great catches. If someone gets gunned down at second, post more videos like that. Get more videos and stuff out there, because social media it's as easy to promote anything as it's ever been. So why not? You have enough. You have the money. You have the resources to promote yourself. And for an example, when players try to promote themselves, Trevor Bauer, for an example, he has his YouTube channel, and he's grown a big fan base because of the YouTube. He's promoted himself. He has Momentum, I think that's his company's name, and then other players are involved with that. And there's that way of promoting themselves and marketing themselves. But instead, Major League Baseball goes and says they try to limit what they can post already. So it's like, okay, so now you already have an issue of lack of marketing for your players, but then when the players try to market themselves and market the game and market the league, you shut them down. Why? It's all ass backwards in Major League Baseball. And the other thing, too, is, again, going back to the younger generation. And I know the younger generation is not the end-all, be-all. But there's a lot of aspects, or a lot of smaller aspects that go into it, into what can help grow the game. For an example, outside of Ken Griffey Jr., what other player really has, like, for example, shoes and cleats? Steph Curry has his own shoe. LeBron has his own shoe. In the NFL, even Deion Sanders has his own shoe. Patrick Mahomes has his shoe. Players have their own shoes. They have their own merchandise. They have stuff like that makes you become even more attracted and fans of them. But outside of like Ken Griffey Jr., you get none of that. Again, marketing. It can put money in your pockets, puts money in the players' pockets. It puts money. It puts love of the fan and a love of the game to the fans. That is what you need. You need a whole lot more of that. And baseball they can turn this around. They can find ways to do this. But it's just a matter of, will they? And you have YouTubers out here who are doing exactly what Major League Baseball should be doing. Promoting your game. Using social media. Using YouTube as a platform to promote your game. Talk about your game. And try to bring more fans to your game. Why can't you do that? Why? I guess we will never know. Now we're going back. We got to get back to the NFL here. Talk about the Brian Flores thing again real quick. Again, it was no surprise to me that the Pittsburgh Steelers signed Brian Flores only because of the fact that, again, with the history of this team, and plus Mike Tomlin being the head coach, it does not surprise me whatsoever. In the situations of how it happened, it just became Brian Flores talked about or asked for advice on stuff, and then conversations kind of happened, and then it led to a job offer, and now here we are. And then it brings to the question of, should Brian Flores possibly call plays for the defense? Because obviously you just promoted Terrell Austin to be the defensive coordinator. You do bring in Brian Flores, who was a head coach, who called plays for the defense that won Tom Brady's 6th Super Bowl against the Rams. That was confirmed. He called that defense. So you have a guy that can call a good defense of game. Why not? Why not let him be? It seems like Mike Tomlin was the one that was calling plays with Keith Butler being there. So why the hell not just either figure something out with Terrell Austin, or just promote Brian Flores to be your defensive coordinator? And even then, he's still a little overqualified now because he was a head coach with Miami, and he did some winning in Miami. Now, obviously, we all know he was done dirty, but that's a different story for a different day. I love this move. I know a lot of other fans love this move. And I am very excited to see how this is going to affect Devin Bush, possibly Joe Schobert. We'll see what happens with him, and maybe Buddy Johnson. It's going to be interesting to see how this affects the Steelers' defense, in a defense that needed some help. Because last year, my God, they did not look like a good defense at all. Now we got to talk a little bit of quarterback here. Because, again, third week I've said this, but again, I'm noticing it, and it's happening more and more every time I post anything that involves quarterback. Fans just run and say, hell no. They go and say, you post anyone, and I've been doing this. I've been playing this game, which if you haven't, go and follow me on Twitter right here at Jeff_Kirby99. I've been doing this game of posting a lot of quarterbacks in Steeler uniforms that I have a Photoshop. Like, I have so many. Like, I have Jimmy Garoppolo, Russell Wilson, Lamar. I even have a Lamar Jackson one. Obviously, I have all the quarterbacks in this draft class. But every single one you just hear, no. Carson Wentz is another one. Aaron Rodgers, of course. I even have Gardner Minshew as one. But again, you post any quarterback and everyone just screams out, hell no. And this becomes the issue of, again, who the hell do you want? And we all know the answer deep down. Deep down, you want to find a way to reincarnate Ben Roethlisberger's career and get another 18 years. We all know that's what you want. Deep down, because again, like me, that's the only thing that we all have known about was Ben Roethlisberger as our quarterback. But when you break it down and you look at some of the other quarterbacks that could be a possibility. Now, we don't know what exactly is going to be happening with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers could be a possibility, but he's also up there in age. But you know that if you bring in Aaron Rodgers, you know that other players are going to want to come to your team. they're going to want to play with him because they feel like they bring a better shot of winning a Super Bowl. And again, this goes back to a conversation that we had last week about the idea of draft picks and the idea of how we could be in a new era of teams going for it. Using draft assets, using draft capital that could be used on players that you don't know what you're going to get to go after players that you know what you're going to get. The Rams just did that. They've been doing that a few years. They used draft capital to go and get Jalen Ramsey that you know was going to be good. You went and got Matthew Stafford and you knew he was going to be good. Traded more assets to get Von Miller that you knew were going to be good. And what did they just do? They went and won a Super Bowl. Now, if you're a bad team, yes, try to get all the picks that you can. But if you're a team that's a middle-of-the-road team or an upper-part team, and you feel like you're only a couple pieces away, why not use that draft capital to go and get the guy that you feel will put you over the hill, over the edge to winning that Super Bowl, to winning the coveted Vince Lombardi trophy? And this is the issue. No one wants to use, in terms of Steelers fans, no one wants to use draft capital on a quarterback. No one wants to. It seems like people are not pleased with this draft class of quarterbacks. And then it's like, next year will be fine until we get to next year. And then it will probably be another process of that once again. So, again, who do you want? Is it going to be Aaron Rodgers? Is it going to be a guy like Russell Wilson? Which, by the way here, I'm going to play a clip for you. And this is courtesy of ESPN. Here, give me 1 second here. I got to, let me edit this out real quick. Let me edit this out because I have some audio, I have a video I'm going to play for you. There we go. So this is, again, courtesy of ESPN. And this is on Get Up. What Robert Griffin III had to say about what the Steelers should do next at quarterback.
RG3, what should they be doing? What should the Steelers be thinking about?
Oh, the Steelers should go get Russell Wilson, in my opinion. I like the Aaron Rodgers piece there by Canty. I just don't know if the short-term fix is what the Steelers are really looking for. You know, Russell could play another 5 to 10 years if he wanted to. So I think that's the way they need to go. And if they don't do that, they need to get Kenny with it. Go get Kenny Pickett from Pitt. He's right there in your own backyard. Draft him. Let him compete with Rudolph and Haskins and see what you have. But for me, like I said, they have to figure out a way to fix their offensive line. And on defense, for as many great players as they have to buckle down and stop the run. That is Steeler ball, and they've gotten away from that. And they got to get back to it if they want to be successful.
To be clear.
Okay. So, again, that was courtesy of ESPN and Get Up. That was Robert Griffin III discussing what the Steelers should do for the starting quarterback next year, or for next season. RG3 says, go and get yourself Russell Wilson. Now, again, he has a no-trade clause. So, will Russell Wilson, will he say yes and agree to want to come to Pittsburgh? We don't know that. But say he does. Again, he's won a Super Bowl. He's been to 2. You get him a couple nice receivers in Deontay Johnson, who's going to be now in a contract year. You get this guy right here, Chase Claypool, that we're all praying to the Lord above that this offseason is going to be a maturing year for him and that he could come back in the third year be the year that we get the player that we all thought we were going to get when we drafted him in the second round. I would like the idea. I have no issue with it. In fact, you saw by the thumbnail of this video or of our live stream here, Russell Wilson in a Steeler uniform. Why not go and get yourself? And again, and this is a debate and a dispute that we've had. Or not that but it seems like what Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert are having about who do we want in a quarterback. Kevin Colbert is looking for accuracy. Mike Tomlin's looking for mobility. You get both with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson can run around the pocket. He can make things happen. And we all know he's accurate. He's a game manager, but he can make things happen with his arm. He's smart. I would love, and I would honestly pound the table for the Pittsburgh Steelers to go and trade for Russell Wilson. Because again, he's only 31 if I'm not mistaken. So he's not that old. You can still get him for 5 to 10 years. Again, it would be I would love the idea of getting Russell Wilson. But say that's not the case. Say we're not going to get Russell Wilson. We're not going to get Aaron Rodgers. So then you look at, let's go maybe a grade down. A guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, which seems like it is a cakewalk, sure thing that he is out of there in San Francisco, and it's going to be a matter of who is going to trade for him. Now, from what it seems like, you don't have to trade a first-round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. So, if that is the case, go and trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, who's been to a Super Bowl, was just in the NFC Championship game, lost to the team that won the Super Bowl in their division. Why not go and get that guy? Go and trade, or go and get some offensive line help. See if a guy like Tyler Linderbaum is available, or a guy like maybe Kenyon Green. Yeah, we don't know. Figure out one of these guys, Zion Jordan. See if one of those guys are available, and you build your offensive line out even more. You get yourself a quality quarterback, and away we go. Now that is a possibility as well of things that could happen. And then you have guys like, we all seen guys like Gardner Minshew. No, I have no interest in that. Carson Wentz, I don't really have any interest in him. If he was fine. He was fine last season. But I feel like he's just he's never going to be that MVP quarterback that we saw in 2017 when he was going to win the MVP if it wasn't for him tearing his ACL. If you're not going to go after one of the top quarterbacks again, then maybe go after a guy like Kenny Pickett. Now, is he going to be there at 20? That we don't know. I truly think the biggest question and the biggest thing that Steeler fans need to watch out for if you're going to go the draft route, what does Washington do? Who does Washington take? Is Washington going to be the team to go and draft Malik Willis? And also, what about New Orleans? Will they maybe try to trade up ahead of Washington to get the quarterback that they so desire and covet? Do they allow the draft to come to them? Will Washington trade up? I personally don't think they are, because we saw this before in 2019 with Dwayne Haskins. They stayed put. They let the draft come to them. They got who they thought was going to be their guy in Dwayne Haskins at number 15. And obviously ended up not being the guy, but that's also a different story for a different day. But it's a history thing that we have seen. So will they go after him or trade up? Maybe not. But then you get New Orleans. What does Carolina do? Carolina is a wild card team that I see. Everyone has them going offensive linemen. Again, mock draft, March 17th, 1.0 mock draft. Be sure to be there. We're going to be releasing our mock draft 1.0. A lot of us having the Panthers taking Charles Cross or an offensive lineman, Akeem Ekwonu. But quarterback is not out of the realm of possibilities. And it would not surprise me whatsoever. and not for quarterbacks, but again, what does Cleveland do? Because we've seen some mock drafts talk about them taking a quarterback. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but hey, that would also be very interesting. What does Baltimore do? Does Baltimore go after a guy like Tyler Linderbaum, who is going to be an absolute stud? We all know that. He's an Iowa guy, Iowa offensive lineman you could always trust. Iowa is a factory for tight ends and offensive linemen. Yet again, it seems like the Big Ten just feeds out offensive linemen like it's no tomorrow. Now, again, if you're going to go the quarterback, the draft route, Malik Willis. Not as accurate, but has the mobility. Again, Mike Tomlin likes the mobility. As we've seen from the Senior Bowl, Mike Tomlin is in love with Malik Willis. That is not being hidden at all. That is just plain right out there for everyone to see. Is what a guy like Matt Corral. He's a guy that could do a little bit of everything. He has a little bit of accuracy and also can move around in the pocket. Now, he's a little undersized, but hey, if he's a guy that could give you a little bit of everything, kind of like a Russell Wilson, now we might be talking. Sam Howell, the question is, do you like Baker Mayfield? If you like Baker Mayfield, you'll probably like Sam Howell. Because to me, and a lot of other people, Sam Howell is Baker Mayfield 2.0 cloned. Desmond Ridder, do you want to go that route? He was a guy that I was interested in for a little bit. He's going to be a day 2 guy. I don't know. I'm not as high on him as I once was. So again, it's going to be, who do you want? What are you looking for in a quarterback? Are you willing to trade the draft capital to go and get your quarterback? Because the Rams were willing to. The Rams were willing to trade that draft capital. They went and got themselves a Matthew Stafford. I would have loved the Pittsburgh Steelers to trade for Matthew Stafford. Trade those first round picks, because again, you get a guy who is still young for a quarterback. He still can throw the football like hell. And you know that he can win. He just needed the pieces around him. We've seen what he can do with bad teams. What Matthew Stafford can do with bad teams. And we've seen what happens when you get him a good team. He goes out and wins a Super Bowl in his first year of having a good team. So, again, who do you want? What does Kevin Colbert want? What does the new GM, because we don't know who the new GM is going to be. What are they going to be looking for? What is their philosophy going to be? Again, I personally would love to see Louis Riddick be the new GM, but we shall see. Now, I saw something. Let me go and find this real quick while we're out of here, because we have a couple minutes here. So I saw something again earlier today about the media, and they were back at it again. They're back at it again in terms of going after certain individuals that play for the Steelers or have played for the Steelers to try and push a certain narrative. Now, let me go ahead and zoom this in real quick a little bit. There we go. So this is NFL on CBS. Juju Smith-Schuster. This guy right here. Right there. Possibly could be out of the door. We don't know. Games with Antonio Brown as a teammate, 30. Games without Antonio Brown as a teammate, 33. 100-yard games with Brown as a teammate, 11. 100-yard games without Antonio Brown as a teammate, 1. Now, here's the part that I don't like about this. Because, now, do I think that 2018 season where Juju had, 1,500 yards, over 100 catches? Yes. We all love that, but it was, and I won't be stupid. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I did think that Juju had the possibilities of being a wide receiver 1 and could continue to give that kind of production, or production that was similar. But here's the part that I don't like about this. What I don't like about this is also the scenarios of how things have happened. So in 2017 and 2018, Juju Smith-Schuster also had a Ben Roethlisberger that could still throw the football with a little bit of velocity on it and a little bit of oomph on it past 5 yards. And also, the scheme was a little bit better. The offensive line was a whole lot better in those times. And yes, Antonio Brown has something to do with it. I'm not going to be stupid again nor naive. But Juju Smith-Schuster is a guy, he had 1,500 yards, and then the next year, he has Mason Rudolph and Doug Hodges at quarterback. And again, that was another thing that we didn't discuss in terms of quarterback. Or do you just go the route of Mason Rudolph or Dwayne Haskins? I mean, obviously, it seems like a lot of people are saying hell no to Mason Rudolph. And we'll get into that here in 1 second here. But yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster, I don't like how they're pushing this narrative that that he's not. It's a narrative thing again. And you find certain ways to make a guy look bad when you can't put the full context out there. They're also not going to talk about how in 2019 he was without a starting quarterback all year long. And you were with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges, who is now in the Canadian Football League. And then obviously 2020, it was one of those situations where, okay, that year was a little bit interesting. Ben was coming off of off the elbow surgery, and okay, maybe. The 2021, he gets hurt, misses most of the season, whatever. But again, I just don't like this, and they do this once again. It's just a narrative thing that the media tries to push, and it's just honestly beyond annoying. And now, one last thing before we get the hell on out of here. And this was a quote that was very interesting, and it sent social media off into a frenzy. Kevin Colbert was in an interview a couple days ago, and he had this to say. If we started a season today, Mason would be our starter. He's 5-4-1 as a starter. We're excited to see what's next for Mason. And this sent Steeler Twitter and it sent social media into an absolute frenzy. Because everyone seems to just absolutely hate Mason Rudolph. And I would not be surprised if Mason Rudolph is probably the most hated Steeler in history. I would not be surprised at all by Steeler fans. But again, this is saying, as of this very moment, Mason Rudolph is our quarterback, but we're obviously going to look at all options and see what else there is, and he'll be the guy if Dwayne Haskins can't beat him out, and if we can't find any other option, or any of the quarterbacks just don't work out, or the draft just does not work out for quarterbacks. That's what that's saying. And we'll see. Now, Mason Rudolph, if you look at certain situations, if you look at the full situation on how things went out, now I'm going to find a certain tweet. It was by Mark Cabali of, he writes for The Athletic here. Give me 1 second here. We're going to look into this, into a certain tweet that he had about Mason Rudolph here. Here, let me find this real quick. Okay. Let me see if I can find this. And if I can't find it here real quick, I'll just kind of quickly describe what he had to say. Because he basically just gave the timeline of what what Mason Rudolph has gone through in his time here, and it just, if you really look at it, if you really break it down, whoo, buddy, it brings a different perspective on what Mason Rudolph can do. But I do want to say thank you everyone for tuning in. Again, I really enjoyed this. I thank you everyone for tuning in. If you haven't yet, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that. If you haven't yet, go to the description, click the link, Revolution right now live on Facebook. Smash that like button over there. If you don't have a Facebook, you can follow us on Twitter as well, at Rev Radio Live on Twitter. Again, Hotspot Podcast on Twitter as well. You'll see me and Dean every Monday at 8 p.m. on Revolution Radio Live on their Facebook page. So make sure and go and check us out at the Hotspot_pod on Twitter. And until then, I hope to see you in either the next video that I do or next week for another episode of the Renegade Roundtable podcast. And until then, stay safe, everyone, and just be positive. And until then, stay safe. Peace out.